Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Please be seated. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, I'll move it.
Second.
Second by Nelson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Items 2 through 4 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 2 is approval of the minutes of the November 21st meeting. Item 3 is approval of the claims. Item 4 from Human Resources includes A, the approval of the memorandum of personnel transactions, and B, authorization to initiate the hiring process. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Taylor. Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item 5 is for action. This is titled the Rural Route Ramble. This is a proclamation. I believe it should have Mr. Nelson's name on it, as far as I know. This is approval of and presentation of Shop Rural Weekend proclamation. So we have that before us for signatures, and I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've got three ladies here that for the last 4 years have been working on showcasing our small rural communities and the small businesses that lie therein through many events throughout the year, but the biggest one is always the first weekend of December called the Route Ramble. And I guess I would invite any of you guys want to come up and talk about the fourth annual Ramble that's going to happen this weekend, and I'll let you guys talk all about it.
Do we need to say our names and addresses or not? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. Melissa Nelson, 3773 180th Street, Correctionville.
Marissa Moland, 833 Meadow Drive, Mobile.
And then Carrie Casson, 1628 Ida Avenue, Mobile.
So we are the founders and planners of an event called the Route Ramble, and we are here today to request a proclamation of Shop Rural Weekend in Woodbury County. The Route Ramble started kind of on a whim in 2020 when we saw our small business friends struggling as we headed into the holiday season. We thought it would be fun to get a group of friends together to go shop and support these some of our favorite small businesses across the countryside. And it kind of snowballed into the weekend-long small town shop hop event that it is now.
Over the years, we've grown from 35 vendors to this year, 100 vendors in 16 small towns. The populations of the towns on our map range from 72, right here in Woodburycountyiowa, Iowa, up to 5,000. And 95% of the businesses are women-owned. Our mission is to promote small, locally owned businesses in rural Siouxland and the towns that they call home. We know that our small rural towns can offer the same vibrant experiences that can be found in a more urban city. We just want everyone else to know it too. We use vendor fees to promote the small businesses on our route through a number of marketing channels, and we provide GPS and printable maps for shoppers to use not only for this weekend, but in the future as well.
Okay, and then businesses on the Route Ramble this year will be available this Friday and Saturday, December 1st and 2nd, and they include but are not limited to boutiques, home goods, handmade items, restaurants, bars, coffee shops, and then pop-up vendors, which are usually online-based businesses that don't necessarily have a brick and mortar that'll be popping up in brick and mortars along the Ramble. So folks can find out more about the small businesses by finding us, the Route Ramble, on Facebook and Instagram, or visiting our website. So we welcome the general public to Shop Rural this weekend on the Route Ramble. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. They did better than you, Mr. Nelson.
I'll just add one more thing, because they published this in the Mobile or the record out there in Woodbury County. And so they had a map of the different communities that are on
Your
there.
name, sir, did you?
Steve Maxwell,
Thank you.
Mobile, Iowa. And they also did a QR code so that you can scan that and get the map of the different, whether it's a restaurant or something like that. So they've done a lot of thought to that. And I'm at the Economic Development Group in Mobile, as Jim Fisher is, and Brian Sadler. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else to add?
I'm looking forward to rambling this weekend, starting Friday and Saturday, so we'll be out and about. And I can say, last year was the first time I was able to go, and I went to a lot of places that I don't think I would have walked into or spent time at if it hadn't been for this event. And I think a lot of people have that same experience, and that's why it's such a profound event, to break people's norms and get them out to different communities and see what they have to showcase. So we really appreciate it and look forward to it, and we'll pray for good weather.
Mr. Taylor.
Is there anything that we could put on our website and feature this? Is that something that, I know you're kind of the website guru. Is that something that we could do?
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh, appreciate it. And if we're looking for a motion, I'd move it unless it's already been done.
I'll second the motion by Taylor. We'll make sure this gets on our recent news section. Karen? I'll read the proclamation now, if that's all right. States, whereas the vibrant communities of Woodbury County, Iowa are enriched by the unique character and contributions of our local businesses, and whereas the heart of our county lies in the rural landscapes that showcase the resilience, craftsmanship, and entrepreneurship of our dedicated community members, and whereas recognizing the importance of supporting our local economy, we celebrate the diverse array of businesses that define the rural charm of Woodbury County, and whereas the spirit of community thrives when we come together to uplift and sustain the businesses that form a major component of our county's economic vitality. And whereas by promoting and participating in local commerce, we foster a sense of pride, camaraderie, and prosperity that resonates throughout Woodbury County. And whereas we acknowledge the Shop Rural Weekend as an opportunity for residents and visitors alike to explore the treasures of our local shops, markets, and establishments. Now therefore, on behalf of the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors and the citizens of Woodbury County, I do hereby proclaim December 1 through 3 as Shop Rural Weekend. I encourage all residents to embrace this occasion by patronizing the businesses that contribute to the unique character and economic strength of our county. And I'm sure we will all sign it, if we haven't already. Anything else for the good of the cause? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you for coming. Item 6 from the County Auditor, Mr. Gill, for action is approval of up to $6,000 from CIP funds to improve the configuration and technology of the Auditor's conference room.
Michelle Scaff, Deputy Auditor. So what we have before you now is a request for approval of $6,000 from CIP funds to reconfigure the auditor's conference room. We did bring this to you during the fiscal year 24 budget hearings, and this is just a follow-up to see if we can get approval to start spending for this project.
Mr. Taylor.
So typically we're at, is our threshold normally 50,000 or more? Could we just do this through gaming? Would that be?
We do use gaming funds, yes.
Otherwise, we're running about $1,200 every year for 5 years, doesn't seem to. So I would move approval through gaming.
Second?
Motion by Taylor, second by Nelson. Or were you finished, or is there anything else you?
That's all I have.
All right. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item for action is number 7 from Mr. Dennis Butler. This is discussion and action to approve memo to all elected officials and department heads to hold the line on operating budgets requests at 0% for FY25. That said, there isn't any backup material. I'm not particularly fond of voting on things without seeing the material, but I think this is to give direction, to
Yes,
draft
this-
something in, to provide this guidance, and we might discuss what's appropriate for operating budgets specifically, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I just like some support, I guess, some consensus that we use 0%, use 3%, which is close to CPI, or don't have any percents. The problem with that is, a lot of times when we have no guidance at all, we get some rather big numbers, and I think this year we're gonna be on a real constraint to cut the budgets, hold the line, do something, because the legislature has limited us greatly what we can and can't do. So, I'd like some guidance is to write a draft of memo to all the department heads, elected officials, to just say certain percent, live within that. Now, there will be exceptions, I know that, where we have mandated things like medical aid to the jail people under our nursing contract. There'll be some items like that. But all in all, we got to hold the line somewhere. It's not going to be very good in the future when we do budgets. At least have a starting point.
Would you explain a little bit more the position the board's going to be in that's different from any other year with this upcoming budget?
Yes. In our general basic fund, this current year, we use approximately $4.5 million worth of cash reserves from the sale of the farm, gaming revenues, and basically out of reserves to hold the line on taxes. This year, we don't have to hold the line on taxes. The legislature is going to force us to reduce our tax levy rate. What the legislation does, it takes our current tax asking, which say hypothetically is 10 million. It's a lot more than that, 10 million. But they're going to allow us to have a 3% increase over that based on how our valuation went up. And the way our valuation went up, we might end up with about 500,000 more on top of this. Well, it's going to be very, very difficult unless we get this jail bill and get some federal aid coming in through prisoner care to make things work without some real changes. So when you take our 10 million, add on 500,000, 10.5 million, yet we got to make up somewhere this 4.5 million that we use this year. That's going to be difficult. The only thing that's going to help a lot will be the prisoner care. So the legislature's put us in a real predicament, and this predicament is going to last 5 more years through fiscal year 29. So this is just the beginning. Another problem we have in rural basic, and the county engineer is addressing this with the engineers statewide, is this minimum levy. We won't even be able to meet the minimum levy with about a 70,000 increase over the current level. We won't even be able to meet that. And we can't meet that, we lose dollar per dollar. Also, we also have contracts coming up where they're all negotiated this fall. And inevitably, something's going to happen there, obviously. And I don't know where we're going to get the money because we did use some cash reserves last year out of rural basic. Now, I'm hoping this year, when we get toward the end, we'll have a better idea on our reserves, but I think we're going to gain 1 or 2 million probably on top because all the expenditure we aren't making because the jail isn't open, new revenues coming in, things like that. So it's really a complex ball here to try to figure out, and we'll get it figured out. But probably by next middle of the month of December, we will know what our tax action is going to be. Because this year, the treasurer or the auditor has to send out a notice to every taxpayer in the county, which is going to be a substantial cost, that we have to show what our current asking is, what our new asking is going to be, and how it fits into the law. We have to do that. We don't have any, we can't get out of it. We have to do it. That takes the place of having a public hearing on exceeding 2% and 3%. We do not have that anymore. So we'll know what our, basically what our tax ask is going to be in the middle of December, and we're locked into that.
And we'll have until the end of April to certify?
April 30th.
Okay.
They have to send a notice, I think, out March 20th, I believe, in that area there. So, but we'll know what our tax rates are. And the only ones that's not limited is general supplemental and debt service. They didn't limit us on that. So there's going to be some suggestions to move one item over to the general sup instead of having it independent where the general basic funds it and the rural basic funds it. Move it into there, take that out of our problem and put it on general sup because we aren't limited.
I think we probably should have more improvement requests submitted then to justify. I mean, there's going to be price inflation for materials and so-called fixed costs too. So we'll have to maybe entertain more improvement requests of smaller amounts and take those up in a logical order, whether that's operating first and then capital expenditures or new spending. I think if we kind of segregate improvement requests into operating improvement requests and general improvement requests, we might be able to decide more prudently what to do. But I'm open to suggestions. Mr. Taylor.
So I like the idea of sending something out to department heads and elected officials, if it could come from maybe the budget analyst and the chair at the same time with kind of the bottom line up front, just like you said, that first paragraph of why, because I think everyone hears every year you know, well, this is going to be the toughest budget year ever. This really is going to be the toughest budget year ever. So I think having some of that up front, I like separating out improvement requests to be taken up later because we've gone back and forth on that. But we really need to have that toward the end, in my opinion. And then the third thing is, I think we need to ask for as much detail as to why the cost is going up. I don't like an artificial percentage because everything goes up at a different rate. But if they can give us in the detail, this is why, on a 3-year average, this is going up. This is what's happened to cost. I think that would be helpful. So those would be my 3.
Yeah, and I agree, separate CIP into 2 items. One for the operations of the department, such as equipment. Then the other one is if you need a new building, you need a new paint job or things like that. Because those, we don't approve at the time we do the public hearing. Because those are just a number in the sky, basically. We have to approve those after July 1st, like we just did today, only we used gaming. But we have to do like out the nature center, the foundation, that'll come out, CIP gets a bigger number. But those kind of things need to be done after July 1st. So the ones during the public hearing will be operational costs, like Matthew referred to, that you have to have like equipment, sheriff cars, things like that, conservation.
And just a thought, but we might want to, since we have a little extra time this year with more time to certify, we might want to consider taking up approved requests. You know, hear them first of all, and then vote on them instead of the first one in front of the board gets a vote. And that's kind of a tough position for others to be in if they're after that. I think if we just get a landscape view of where everything is at, and then we go back and give it a second look, I think we'll be better off that way.
Sorry, can I ask one more? How many remind us how many contracts are up next year out of the 6 bargaining units?
I think 5.
Is there any way that you can plug in what would be an estimated, you know, and I know those are all subject to negotiation, but to know how much, even if it's, you know, the board may have to work with given the legislature's limitations? Because I guess what I'm alluding to is if we come back like the chairman's suggesting afterwards, and we know this is what we have, even on an estimated average of those 5 contracts, we might know what we have to work with and not incur a tax ask increase.
We might know what we have to work with for some of them by January 1, because we'll take 2 or 3 of them up in early December.
Okay.
We did plug in a number. It's a low number, but we have to plug something in. It could be lower, it could be higher. I guess what we plugged in is 3%. I say it could be higher, it could be lower. But that's basically cost of living right now by CPI. And that'll at least give a guideline where we're at if that's what everything's settled at. That'll include the fringe benefits too.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thoughts on what exactly the memo should limit? Just more of an emphasis on improvement requests, I suppose, and, you know, explain exactly where the cost increases are, if it's due to materials increase or more items. You know, that's really,
More detail
yeah.
when they submit their budget.
I think especially sometimes it preempts us asking, you know, you've only expended 15% of this and we're halfway through the year. And like, well, that's of course because we buy in bulk or this is seasonal or whatever it is. So if we can get some of that information, that granularity up front, I think is helpful.
And Dennis put in there that it's pending final determination of reserves.
Yes.
Because we do want to make sure it's clear that there are some unknowns we're dealing with, and that's why we're asking for this. But as you said, there will be a 1 or 2 million additional because we're not spending certain budgeted items.
Yep.
So,
And that'll fall back to our reserves. The only catch is every time we use reserves, it's a Band-Aid. But the problem is the legislature didn't give it any way to fix the Band-Aid. So the alternative is not good. So we need to balance this thing out without sacrificing services, point blank. So I'll make something up, get it out to you, Matthew, to review and make adjustments.
All right, well, if push comes to shove, we're going to have to look at, we're going to have to discuss everything in the context of mandated first and go from there. Any other thoughts? Is everyone okay with the motion?
Yeah.
All right, I'll move it. Second by Bittinger. Hearing no further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 8 is reports on committee meetings. Mr. Radig?
So, no committees other than, we had the conference board. Sorry, microphone's off. Conference board today. We only had one item on the agenda, really. It was a closed session item on a lawsuit settlement offer. And the conference board voted 2-1 with the county's vote no to settle that lawsuit. So,
How much?
65,000.
Okay.
And that was all.
Were you there as well?
Yeah. Yes, I was there, yeah. That was it, yeah.
Is that all? Okay. Mr. Taylor?
Just for the December EMA Commission meeting that's coming up on December 12th, just got notice that we're going to have budget approval for FY '25 and a formal introduction of the Assistant Emergency Management Coordinator, John Holmes. So look forward to meeting there and report back after that.
Okay. Committee-wise, as we talked about earlier, we're looking at having another roundtable with legislators before the session. Looking at this point at December 8th or 15th, I think the 15th might work for more people, but I'm still not sure because of the holidays and a lot of people haven't got back to me. But for anyone up here, is the 15th afternoon, is there any red flags with that?
Either one works for me.
Mark, Nara, any conflicts, 8th or 15th Fridays?
I responded I can be back by the 15th at 3:30.
Okay, great.
I'm out of town for the county engineers meeting, but we'll be back.
Okay, the engineer can be back by the 15th, if that's the date.
What time were you thinking?
Last time we did, was it 3:30? Somewhere around there. I know a couple of you have jobs that get out just before then.
I think I'm working that day, but I don't know. I can see if I can work around it again.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it works.
we can just have it at Home Furniture. We can all go over there. Maybe more people would show up, who knows? All right, Mr. Nelson.
I've got an update from the LEC. This would have been our 2-week, just standing update, and with the short week last week, just didn't get put on the agenda, but it's just a minor update to share. It has been the LEC Authority's commitment since the beginning of the project to provide information once we had the information ourselves and to otherwise be transparent. Corrective work is still ongoing in the county attorney's space in Lower C after the area was punched during the week of October 9th. Corrective work is still ongoing in the sheriff's office space, the court space, and medical observation in Upper C that were punched during the week of October 23rd. Punch lists have been completed in Upper C, including the intake, the week of November 20th. This with the assistance of 4 people from the authority, Baker Group, and Woodbury County, and 4 folks from GGA. Accurate Controls is still installing the building security electronics, and that work is ongoing. A site walk was conducted by the sheriff's office to discuss corrective measures in the Upper A, which is the jail area, and work continues in all areas of the building. I'm slated to be out there for a visit next, is that Wednesday, the 6th? Yeah, the 6th. Chairman Matthew Ung is going to be attending with us as well. It'll be interesting to see what progress has been made in the jail since we've been out there. You and I went, 5 weeks ago? Something like that, 4 weeks ago. That's my LEC update for this week, and I'll yield my time.
Only thing I have is zoning and planning commission. I'll have some updates next week about some of the solar updates for that. But other than that, I have nothing else.
Okay. Sounds like they're working hard on that.
Yeah, they're still in working committees, and they're nowhere near finished, but it's just continue working through all the different items and hearing the citizens' concerns. So, but I'll just bring an update about where they're at next week. So.
Yeah, we had targeted either this month or earlier, but it looks like January
I think
is the
January.
earliest.
Yeah. Yeah, they're asking for another planning session for January, just a working session, so.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, hearing no other committee meeting reports. Item 9 is citizen concerns. If you'd like to address the board, please come state your name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes uninterrupted. If the board wishes to make any comments, we can do that in our item afterwards.
Thank you. Leo Yoakum, 1691, 250th Street, Salix. Think Chairman Ung survived his 2 weeks vacation. He's looking pretty good. I'm here with the Salix Drainage District, as I want to question some things. Is the engineer working for, is he employed by the county? Pat Mao? Or is he employed by the city? Who does he answer to?
I see Mark Nar's head shaking yes for the county, so would you want to clarify that,
And I
Mark?
see the auditor concurs. Is that,
I think you're asking about the engineer. I think you're asking about the engineer that is working on the drainage district.
Yes.
That is under contract with the Board of Supervisors. That's who he's working.
Thank you. At the last meeting last week, what was the directive that you gave him to look at? Was it 2 options, like they have the west option, and we talked about the south option and Browns Lake? Was he actually given the directive to check them both out, or? Here's where I'm gonna go with this.
Well, are you asking a question for a response, or are we?
Yeah, I am, actually I am.
Okay.
I-
So let us know.
Thank you.
I can respond if you, or someone else can.
I
Well, if
think
someone
it was
asks a
just
question, we'll.
It was just to look at other options, other alternatives. We didn't say A or B. It was just other alternatives from what.
That was my understanding too. Yeah.
What if he just looks at one? Okay. I didn't know the mayor was gonna show up today, but boy, I sure am glad he did. I went to the November 8th meeting at the Salix City Council, and I thought I'd get some answers. And it was a very, very frustrating meeting because nobody knew anything. And the mayor and I didn't get off very well. In fact, after the meeting here last week, we were upstairs. And cooler heads prevailed, and we decided, you know what? He doesn't know anything about what's going on, neither does the city council. There was absolutely no communication. And I think he's going to address that today. I had no idea he was going to be here. For this thing to go good and to be a plus for the Salix citizens, we have to have some communication. We just don't get it. He may have some options that we can look at. I'm a farmer, and we have the land that's all around it. It's going to affect us, and we're happy to let it affect us because the Salix needs drainage. I've lived there since I was 12 years old. I have a lot of friends there. So one way or the other, they're going to get drainage, whether it's south, west, as they had put in, and everybody off to the west was against it, and I can see why, or Browns Lake. I understand drainage. My boy understands drainage. I think there should be somebody in there that's going to convey some messages back and forth so somebody knows what's going on. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Kevin Nelson, Mayor of Salix, 406 Willow Street. And yes, I'm going to be talking about Drainage District. I just have 4 points. They're not questions. These are 4 points just to remind all of you and for anybody in the room. Number 1, V&K was selected, Patrick Mao and Chad Kurt, was selected by the Board of Supervisors in February of 2023. Mark Nara recommended ISG, but Patrick made a strong case for selecting V&K, and ultimately, the Board of Supervisors picked V&K. That's who picked him. That's why he works for you, not the City of Salix, because you picked him, okay? V&K is only paid by the county supervisors. They're not paid a single penny by the City of Salix, Greg Yoakum, or Denise Burkhart, the petitioners. Not a single cent. That's why they report to you. And I think that's what Leo's point is that until this public hearing, I doubt that V&K gave any of you any update in the last 8 months. And that's a problem. So it's not my responsibility to get V&K to talk to you. That's your responsibility to get V&K to talk to you because you're paying them. Next thing is, it was mentioned about the cost is going to be $1 million for this project over the term of its 20, 30-year life, and how it's only costing $10,000 or whatever for the rent for Salix. The drainage district of the Farmers Drainage District can choose to charge Salix whatever they want. One of the things that I had done when I first became mayor was, do we have any legal remedies to not pay that much? And basically the answer is no. And we would have been wasting our money on legal fees. If they want to, next year, they can charge us $500,000. If they want to, they can charge us $600,000 next year. It's up to them. It's their district. We don't have a choice. As far as the cost, all of the cost is going to be borne only by the people in the proposed drainage district. Not Browns Lake, not Correctionville, not Bronson, just the people in the district. And that's who it's protecting. The people that are going to have their homes flooded are the people paying for it. And I'd rather pay for a ditch beforehand than be flooded like Hornick was. And lastly, in 3 months, the public hearing, if you choose to make the district, the county supervisors have every legal right. They have first dibs to run the thing for years or indefinitely if you want to. Have at it. I'd rather not run another thing. The City of Salix is offering to run it if you don't want to, because it is hours worth of meetings every month that you'll have to do. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. We're offering. But you don't have to give it to us. You can have all the responsibility and all the maintenance and all the blame. And the only reason Salix can even run it is because we make up 25% of the proposed drainage district, more than 25%. If we make it bigger and we're less than 25%, Salix can't run it. It has to be a board of trustees that are elected. So those are my points, because as you can see, information's not getting out. If Leo Yoakum is not getting informed on who's responsible for V&K, that's not on the City of Salix. That's on the Board of Supervisors of V&K. It's not Greg's responsibility to go around telling people about this. It's not Denise's responsibility, and it's not the City of Salix's responsibility. It's the Board of Supervisors. You're the one paying them thousands and thousands of dollars with no oversight. So that's all I had. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you very much. So to the extent that we can own that maybe like Cool and Luke, what we have here is a failure to communicate rather than being reactive. In order to be proactive going forward, would you be open to having V&K present a couple or 3 different proposals down in the Salix area with the city council members who are interested and will be impacted, and a couple of supervisors? And what I'm suggesting by doing this, Kevin, is instead of waiting for 3 months, and then we find out, kind of like we practiced for 3 hours.
Right.
Last meeting, this is what you don't like. What about getting ahead and seeing in 3, 4, 5 weeks? Here, not everyone's gonna be happy. I think we can agree on
Exactly.
that. But getting to critical mass where now there's 75, 80, 85% who say, okay, I can live with that. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm fine with that, and I just want to clarify, Patrick, the VNK head person, Chad's kind of more of an assistant, has met with the city council and has come to a handful of city council meetings, maybe 3 or 4, and then he's called me a few times throughout the year. And it's mostly to keep us updated, like, oh, by the way, Rick Patterson wants all of his land up included, there's nothing you can do about it because you're just a petitioner. I'm the engineer and I don't work for you, City of Salix, I work for the county supervisors. So he has kept us updated a little bit. Apparently, he didn't bother contacting Greg at all, and that's where some of the frustration came into play. I'm fine with Patrick continuing to come in once a month, once every 2 months, every 3 months, just to keep us updated. But really, the people that he needs to talk to are the landowners, especially the ones that were here had issues, just what he's supposed to be doing, and you guys, because you guys are paying him. So I think it should be both. I think that Patrick should be talking to the landowners and then giving the county supervisors an update on a weekly, monthly basis of, these are the people I've talked to, this is where we're at for people being okay with it now.
And I guess what I'm suggesting is 4 weeks from now and 8 or 10 weeks from now, would you be open to having a public meeting where people could come and give input and Patrick could say,
Absolutely.
Here's where we're at. I just think we might get ahead of it if we have a couple supervisors there instead of finding out, because he can report to us and we can say, yeah, that all sounds great, but we're not the ones that are impacted or, none
Absolutely.
of us
I
live in
don't
the
know
Salix
if it would
area.
make more sense for it to be here
Okay.
at the county supervisor level, because again, VNK reports to you, not to us, and not City Hall of Salix.
I
It's
think
no different than
The
why
challenge
would,
was that in our meeting last week, everybody was complaining that the meeting was here and not down by their home.
it's
that was-
because it's not the petitioner's response, like, why would we have it at Greg Wilkham's house,
Right.
you know?
No,
We're just
I-
petitioners. Once
I
we've
agree,
done the
but I
petition,
mean,
we're
if there
done.
was a location maybe down by Salix that's closer to, the homeowners that are impacted.
We could do a meeting at the community center in Salix, if the supervisors want to arrange that with the city of Salix and get the word out, and they are the ones that are communicating that out to the landowners through VNK. We're happy to host something like that, but we're not going to be the ones responsible for it.
I think that would be good, and if I could just bring up one other point, if that's okay. In talking to Mark Nara this afternoon, the whole legal classification in terms of how that's impacted, I think it's important to know whether or not there's enough direction right now for the classification study to take place. And so that's just a question
Sure.
that I have.
And one of the reasons why he didn't do the classification, on top of it being more work and more cost for you guys, essentially, is until you know what the set district is going to be, you can't really do a classification, because if it grows, well, then you have to adjust the classification so that everyone gets a different portion of the larger share. So if it's $100 and it's spread over 10 people, well, then it's $10 a person. But if it's a bigger area, now it's 300 people that is ultimately selling, well, now the portion per person is different. So he didn't do it because he wanted to know what's the final district going to be before we do the classification. Because if it keeps changing, then he's gonna have to constantly say, oh, now your amount that you're gonna owe is different because people keep getting added or we're changing it because of this and what. That's why he didn't do it.
So maybe when there's that 85% are somewhat happy, that might be between that and
That
when we
would-
formally approve, like we almost did
Right.
last week, this is what the impact is gonna be on you per, just a suggestion. I'd rather hear about it first
Right.
rather than later and say,
Oh, I'm
wait a
with you.
second.
That makes sense to me, but until you know, like, this is the set boundaries of the drain district, then you don't know what the cost per person is gonna be. I totally agree, and then that makes sense to me. I lost my train of thought, I was gonna say something else.
That's okay. I think we can move on.
Okay.
Yep.
I took up more than 3 minutes, I apologize.
It's all right. Any other citizen concerns?
Doyle Turner, 2738 200th Street. I'm going to take a big risk here at the risk of just proving just how ignorant I am on drainage. Because I come from the hills, but I have done a lot of work with these guys in the bottom, and every one of the guys that have survived down there can write a book on drainage. They all have knowledge. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the existing ditch board has farmers that vote by the number of acres within the district. Would it make sense to have like an advisory council at this stage where the people who are in the drainage district would elect people to come up with ideas and so that we could get the public, the landowners and the engineers more on the same page quicker? Is that something that would be legal or possible? Can you speak to that?
So I think, Kevin Nelson, Mayor 6. So I think what you're referring to is like a three-person board, and that's what the Farmers Drainage District has. It's by law, it has to be 3 people in Iowa. And they're the ones responsible for doing surveys and making sure that everything is taken care of for our drainage district and getting expert opinions. That is an option if it's created. So option A is created, Board of Supervisors runs the thing. Option B, created, Supervisors kicks it to City of Salix. Option C, created, gives it Salix, Salix doesn't want to deal with it anymore, kicks it to a Board of Trustees who are democratically elected to terms of every 4 years. And then they'd be just like the farmers.
Thank you. I think I remember early on in my tenure, I think it was in Hornick, we had a town hall. I believe it was Upper Wolf Creek Drainage District, I think. And packed room, 60 or so people. We went with the third route, I think. The board said, we don't want to deal with this. You guys know it's best. And they started nominating people for the trustee position that weren't in the room because no one wanted to upset their neighbors. And when you make these lines, I mean, there are winners and losers, and that's just part of the process. So there's not going to be a happy resolution all the way around. I mean, it's just going to be a incremental improvement overall, but it's not going to make everybody happy. And some people are, based on where they live, will be less happy. But that's why the people that live there make that decision. That's the most decentralized form of government, I think, that we have in our county. So hats off to anyone that is a drainage district trustee. I mean, I was a Grant Township chairman for a while, but it's a little different. Okay, any other citizen concerns?
Mr. Chairperson, Pat Gill, Woodbury County Auditor. Since Kim Taylor was convicted of 52 counts of voter fraud last Tuesday, I've received numerous calls and personal inquiries about why Supervisor Taylor is still on the board. And so I think to be transparent, it's important that the citizens understand what this is all about.
Can I call for a point of order, Mr. Chair?
What is that?
You've been handed a resolution that was not notified to anyone under citizen concerns. We've had this discussion in the past that was not properly notified under the guise of being a concerned citizen when we all know what the proper process is. And the proper process is to publish something 24 hours so that the public knows what you're handing to us right now. And I know that this will be, and so I'll just ask for a ruling from the chair. If you think this is proper, you may proceed.
Can I
But-
respond?
The question was to me,
This is a resolution that is typed and that is obviously well-planned, and it's coming before the public. Again, and we've had this conversation many a time. Nobody knew about this, wasn't published, and it sprung on us during citizen concerns. Again, if we think this is the proper way of handling it and acting, by all means.
a lot has happened in the last few weeks, and the board can receive this into the record. I'll move to receive it into the record.
Second.
Second by Radig. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
I'm abstaining.
Passes 4-0 with Supervisor Taylor abstaining for conflict of interest. Please proceed.
Mr. Taylor has a good point. This wasn't here. I'm not asking you to vote on it. What I'm bringing to you is a resolution that I authored in order to help with this whole process and to answer a lot of the questions that I've had from citizens. So what I did was write this resolution. I want to explain that there's, in the Iowa Code, there is Chapter 66 that deals with the removal of elected officials or officials in the state of Iowa. And there are several different ways that that can occur. But number one, the Attorney General's office can do that on their own. And they, by the way, the code section is written, it's pretty clear that those are the folks that have the most power. And so then also occurred is that just last year in the last session is when it comes to election misconduct, the county attorney, the local county attorney has been removed from prosecuting election misconduct. It is now completely with the Iowa Attorney General's office. So that's why I authored this, and I'm asking you to consider it at a subsequent meeting. But I'm going to read it into the record now, if that's okay with you, Mr. This is a resolution calling upon the Iowa Attorney General to fully investigate the activities of Woodbury County Supervisor Jeremy Taylor and his wife Kim Fong Taylor during the June 2nd, 2020 primary election, the June 7th, 2020 Board of Supervisors District 2 special election, and the November 3rd, 2020 general election. Whereas Kim Fong Taylor, the wife of Woodbury County Supervisor Jeremy Taylor, was arrested January 12, 2023 by federal authorities for her role in an alleged voter fraud scheme during the 2020 primary and general elections, and whereas Woodbury County Supervisor Jeremy Taylor was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in the government's trial memorandum filed November 6, 2023, and whereas it was stated in the government's trial memorandum filed November 6, 2023, former Woodbury County Supervisor Rocky DeWitt and Woodbury County Sheriff Chad Sheehan, as candidates during the 2020 primary and general elections, were anticipated to testify that Jeremy Taylor said he had a lock on a substantial number of votes from the Vietnamese community in Sioux City. And whereas Woodbury County Auditor Patrick Gill testified he observed Jeremy Taylor and Kim Fong Taylor together dropping off voting materials at Woodbury County ballot drop box, and whereas on November 21st, 2023, Kim Fong Taylor was convicted in the United States District Court for Northern District of Iowa, Western Division, of 52 counts of voter fraud, and whereas evidence exists that the same activity took place during the July 7, 2020 Board of Supervisors District 2 special election that was not investigated by federal authorities. Be it therefore resolved, the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors hereby requests the Iowa Attorney General to conduct a thorough investigation of the activities of Woodbury County Supervisor Jeremy Taylor and his wife Kim Fong Taylor during the June 2nd, 2020 primary election, the July 7th, 2020 Board of Supervisors District 2 special election, and the November 3rd, 2020 general election. And be it further resolved that if warranted, the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors request the Iowa Attorney General file a petition for removal of Jeremy Taylor from the office of Woodbury County Supervisor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's wait until board concerns, unless he's still up here to respond. Are there any other citizen concerns? Before you speak, is there anyone else? For a second time, is there anyone else? All right.
Doyle Turner, 2738 200th Street. I find it really hypocritical what just happened here, because our auditor lost an election case because he violated the law, and then turned around and violated the law again and lost another case. So I think if there's anybody that was equipped to ask what was just asked here, he would be the last person in the county. And I think we must remember that the feds have looked at this and didn't take it. And I don't believe it's the county's job to second guess the citizens. If somebody was calling for Mr. Pat Gills to step down, I would stand up here and stand up for him because he was voted in. Even though he lost 2 cases for elections that he runs, he was voted in, and the people decided that he is the man. And Representative Taylor has been voted in, and I believe it is not our will, it is not the job of the board, it is not the job of us. There are legal ways to do things if the public wants to do this, but this man represents 20% of this county, and nobody should attempt to usurp the vote of the 20% of this population of this county. This is what elections are for. Elections decide these types of things, and I think that's the route that we really should take, and we should really condemn the hypocrisy that is going on. Thank you.
Can I make a comment now? I was not going to, I want to respond.
We're still in citizen concerns, so yes, you may.
Craig Levine, 5003 Morningside Avenue. Jeremy, I have a huge, huge problem with you. You should be above reproach. You're a chaplain in the Air National Guard, right?
Army.
Same thing. You're supposed to be above reproach. You're not. You had to know what your wife was doing. She was convicted of that. If you had any dignity, you would step down. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other citizen concerns? Hearing none. Last item, item 10 is board concerns. Are there any board concerns? I will just note, in case anyone's wondering, the county attorney is not here because he's in a murder trial. His assistant Joshua is not here because he's on a scheduled absence. So that is the reason we're talking about legal things right now, and they're not here. The board has been asked to, I know this is a different type of action we're being asked to take. The board has been asked to take direct action. We can't. It's not something that Iowa Chapter 66 allows, but that is the reference for anyone wondering about the removal process and what is legal. 3 of us have made public comment on this matter, which is as good as a proclamation at a board meeting. Anything we say is public as it is. With that, are there any other board concerns? Mr. Taylor.
Just want to respond in a couple of ways. The last time that the Attorney General was contacted was when I was in Iraq. And do you want to know why the Attorney General was contacted? For me supposedly and allegedly violating the Hatch Act, which says that you can't be a federal employee and hold partisan office. I had to fight that while I was in Iraq, and the only way I know about this is that it was communicated to Mr. Gill. It was communicated by Maria Runquist to Pat Gill on Wednesday, November 25th, excuse me. This has nothing to do with residency. It is a request that I be removed from my school district job. I received a letter from the U.S. Office of Special Counsel that I never violated the Hatch Act. I had to fight this while I was deployed. This is a public record. It was responded to with the complainant strikes again. And again, this is a public record, to eliminate my job as a school district employee for violating a Hatch Act. But guess what? I have a letter since I fought it that said I never violated a federal investigation that was spurious against my job as a school district employee while I was in combat serving my country. I plan to complete my term on the Board of Supervisors. And I know that Mr. Gill has come up during citizen concerns, but I will work hard to continue to complete my term, and then I'm going to focus on my family because this has been very hard on them. And I want to let my colleagues on the board know I respect that you felt the need to make these statements. I respect that. I filled in for the chair last week for a nearly 3-hour meeting, but if that's not something that you want me to continue in as far as that role, I completely respect that. And so I will step down from that role if that's what's desired. And by the public statements, even though we haven't had any communication, I haven't heard from anyone directly yet, I respect that nonetheless. And I know it's awkward. So I'm not going to comment any further about allegations from a brief that weren't even presented at trial. And then finally, I just want to thank my family and my friends and my church and those who know me and my family who have stood by us. And that's all I have to say.
So I just got one thing. Well, one thing I want to make, and I will say this to Supervisor Taylor, Jeremy. You know, I want to say something about it, but it's not against you. And I want to say what's going on doesn't negate the good things you have done for the board and for the county. So I think that's clear. And just like our other elected officials in the room, they've done good things. You know, regardless if we disagree with them politically or personally, they've done good things for the county. All of our elected officials. So I think that's a fair statement to say. So I've got nothing else to add to that, but let me I had created a brief statement. I gave it to Chairman Ung just to know ahead of time what I was going to read. But this is just about integrity, and this isn't a slide. This isn't directed to you. This is just an overall call for all of our elected officials in the county, and not because of what's going on, you know, currently or because of you. So I just want to be clear, you know, to this. This is an overall. As being new to the board, you know, coming into this, you know, just looking at everything. This is not a declaration, but just a reminder to all the elected officials in here. And you know, whether you love each other, you hate each other, you disagree politically, personally, just a reminder about why we serve and just integrity. So let me just bear with me here. It's not too long, but it's just this. The Founding Fathers, I wrote this here over this week. It says, the Founding Fathers of our great nation said in the Declaration of Independence that integrity was essential to freedom. We mutually pledged, they quoted, to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Words can be cheap, but actions are the only thing that back up integrity. All these men realized this and gave of their fortunes, their families, their homesteads, served in the military, or gave of their lives defending their freedom and integrity. The foundations of our constitutional republic, not democracy, let's be very clear, constitutional republic, were succinctly stated by George Washington, quote, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable, unquote. These support pillars of our country are practically lived out as integrity, freedom, the rule of law, limited government, personal responsibility, and justice for all. Psalms 11:3 reminds us that the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? If trust and integrity of the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors or of any elected official, the auditor, the sheriff, the treasurer, city councils, mayors, town clerks, etc., are shaken and corrupted, where do we go from here? Our country and our county and our nation crumble, end of story. What is interesting is that the Founding Fathers mentioned religion, morality over economics, jobs, or any other material elements, all of which were vitally important in their time as well as ours. John Adams, president, civic leader, and signer of the Declaration of Independence, said the following about securing the foundations of the government and our freedoms. It is religion and morality alone which can establish the principles which upon freedom can securely stand. The only foundation of a free constitution is pure virtue, unquote. As elected officials, I want to remind us, we must not depend on a ruling of a court of law or public opinion to determine our virtue. We must undertake this venture ourselves and strive to do right, fear nothing. Proverbs 10:9 reminds us, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will be found out. Dr. Benjamin Rush, signer of the Declaration of Independence, physician, civic leader, and founder of Dickinson College, said this about integrity. By integrity, I mean veracity, devotion to truth, fidelity to promises, and a strict coincidence between thoughts, words, and actions. As an elected official, we must all live out and act in such a manner that even when one would potentially, I'll say they can potentially be accused of a crime or potentially be accused of impropriety, our lives alone bear witness to the contradiction being put forth. 1 Peter 2:12-17 reminds us, Apostle Peter writes, he says, keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on his day of his visitation. But be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as supreme, or to the governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but living as servants of God. Honor everyone, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. Jesus, last of all, he reminds us in John 8:7, he says that let him who is without sin be first to throw a stone. And so I want to remind us of that. That Jesus, he's not saying we can't judge or hold people accountable, but he reminds us that we must judge accurately and not overlook our own actions of sin, dishonor, and unrighteousness. So I implore every elected official in Woodbury County, the state of Iowa, and our United States Congress to examine our actions, words, lives, and homes to see if we're truly living lives of integrity. And so that's what I wanted to say, and that's not directed at you, Mr. Taylor. That's directed to everybody in this county. So let the listener hear, and if that's you, I pray that you would examine your life. But I think as elected officials, that's the high calling we are called to from our founders and from Scripture. So with that, that's all that I have to say, and I just hope that every one of us, we're going to make mistakes, but we must judge ourselves first. And as board of supervisors, I'd say, as always, be new on this. I'm going to make sure we judge ourselves first. Judgment starts in this house first, and we hold ourselves higher than the courts, in the sense of we must make sure we are living honorably and ethically. So that's all that I have, but to comment on. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other board concerns?
Well, I'll say something else too, just because it's the elephant in the room. It's good that we have citizen concerns, and yes, I think everyone has the right constitutionally to voice their concerns and hold every one of us accountable, but I will just say this, we should make sure we hold everybody accountable, all public officials, no matter political party, in all areas of government. And that's the elephant in this room, is holding everybody accountable. And so going forth, I promise to the citizens, to my district, to everyone in this room, I don't care what political party you are. I don't care your birth. If you've been here for 100 years, you grew up here, raised here. If there is dishonor in the house, we will seek to bring honor and to make sure we hold each other accountable as elected officials, because we know at a federal level, it's a uniparty. There's so much corruption, but no one's willing to hold each other accountable. So all I can say is for me in this house, we'll make sure that we begin the process of holding each other accountable. And I ask the public to hold me accountable, Chairman Ong, Supervisor Taylor, Supervisor Raddick, Supervisor Nelson, elected officials, Sheriff Sheehan, Auditor Gill, Mrs. Bertrand over there, Tina, hold me accountable, hold every one of us accountable. And so that's my request. So that's my second final thing, and I'll be quiet now. Thank you
Well-
thank you for listening.
Mr. Binger, I appreciate your comments as far as Republican or Democrat. You'd feel the same way. I think, Mr. Nelson, you also had comments that were good. I had comments as well. I've worked with Mr. Taylor longer than any of you, and this is a difficult position to be in. But I want everyone to know that as elected officials and as representatives, we do speak for a lot of people, the three of us. I've been approached in my other jobs by people that never talk about politics with me ever, that I don't think they even know I'm on the board, and all of a sudden, they're talking to me, and they're asking me what we can do and what we should do and how we're going to handle it. And they're sharing their opinions, and a lot of their opinions are what the three of us have stated publicly. I can't imagine what your family is going through, Mr. Taylor. And I think I've tried to make that clear in my statement. I also can't imagine, in all fairness, being in that position. It was the circumstances you brought up when you were overseas. Well, they may deal with investigation. The position we're in as a board is because of actions that your family took. And it's hard to imagine there being a separation between husband and wife, particularly since I think we all know that you do have a healthy marriage. And given that, it's
Do have a what? I'm sorry.
healthy marriage. Given that, it's hard to imagine a world where what actions and steps were taken by one were not known by the other. And that is where there's a lot of public heartburn and a lot of request for the board to act on something we can't act on because we're not a judge. And I was contacted by a well-meaning gentleman who took issue with our stance, the three of us, and I felt like I had to remind that gentleman how opinions work. We can share opinions. Doesn't mean we're all a judge here. That's why we defer, and I want to make it clear to everyone, Chapter 66 is what we're dealing with. If you're asking the board to do something, we've done more than I think any of us supervisors need to have done in this position. And that is because we want to serve the public, give our thoughts, and at the same time, as I said earlier, this is not something, and Mr. Binger says it in a very loving way, but he's not providing cover for things that are improper, and that's what the board is not going to do. We held off comment for as long as we could, the four of us, and until it was absolutely set in stone, we decided to make comment because this is not, in today's world, no comment says a lot sometimes. And it's not easy, but I want the public to know that we do speak for a lot of people. And I would personally be uncomfortable if I knew that three of my colleagues had publicly voiced the opinion that we have that you should resign. But that is your right. And the people did vote you in, and they also voted in laws and all these other processes. And so this is uncharted territory. I don't know if Iowa's ever seen a case like this. And so it's a lot for the board to deal with as we try to do our normal work. And if you were offering to step down as vice chair, even though there are only a couple meetings left this year, in order for there not to be adverse action on that, I think that would be appropriate. the public may not know that those are annual appointments, and it's not like there's a ton of time left in the year. But if that was an offer, then I think it would be appropriate.
Yeah, if I wasn't clear, I only want to serve at the behest in any sort of position like that if that's what's desired. And if it's not, because I've, again, heard through the media, and I'm assuming what they've said was accurate, since I didn't hear from anyone directly, I certainly will respect that.
Well, we can settle that right now.
Although I'm willing to do that, I would still think that it needs to be, and Pat, you can, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to be consistent, needs to be on next week's agenda, and I still respect the auditor, as the auditor in his role, and that's why I'm deferring to you, so
Of course.
so. Is that right, Pat, or? Sure. Okay.
If there is a willing resignation, then that'll be on the agenda. And that is what
Right.
we have all said, and I don't see any of us walking back from that.
Right.
So absent other comments or action, that'll be on the next agenda. All right. Any other board concerns? Yes.
Just one more. And I know this is a different subject matter altogether, but since I see Mayor Fisher in the room, the city of Moville's request as far as the road, TIF, and engagement.
We'd like to go ahead and.
Come to the microphone, though. Sorry.
Jim Fisher, of Mobile, Iowa. We'd like to be on, we have a council meeting next week. We will go ahead and discuss it. We'd like to go ahead and get on your agenda the following Friday and be here within 2 weeks and discuss it with you. Mr. Butler went ahead and said there's some, Mr. Nara wanted sort of an idea of what we expect. I gave him just a preliminary outline of what the costs were. On that preliminary outline now, it wasn't divided up. It was just something that he wanted it, I gave it to him. We will have more specific numbers when we come visit you again.
Thank you.
You probably heard in the news, our clinic went forward. Our bank is open, all on Frontage Road. We're really excited about the future. Okay, thank you.
You know, speaking of Moville, did he not just get, Woodbury Central got Mr. Football, State of Iowa?
Yes, he did.
Was that Drew Klunder?
Yes.
When, you know, maybe it'd be nice if, when you guys got connections to him, maybe you could do a proclamation about recognizing that, because that's, I don't know of that happening recently in rural Woodbury County, so.
Yeah, we could work on that, Jim, can we?
Yes, I will work on
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great. We came up a little bit short at state, but it was they had a great season and he had a great career.
Yes,
You know, I mean,
well, all the kids did.
Yeah,
the
they all
kids
did. Yep,
They
yep.
really did. So, I mean, he set a lot of records, but all the kids were behind him. So it was a great year. Now looking forward to the winter sports. So, okay, thank you.
and come to Mobile Friday and Saturday for the Ramble, right?
There we go. Since you brought that up, this is not just the craft part of it. We will have hundreds of people in town, and this goes from one town to the next. These people will go ahead and stop at your local stores, Casey's grocery stores, restaurants. It's going to be an economic boost for all these small towns. It's a big deal, and if you were in Mobile, like I was last year, the whole Main Street was full of cars. So we're looking forward to it.
Dennis, you had some?
Yeah, in respect to the Mobile clinic being started now, we had $250,000 worth of ARPA funds approved to send to them. Can we go ahead and send them the $250,000, or should they send a letter requesting it again and then send them the $250,000? It's been approved by the board.
I think we already approved it, so I don't see another
We send them
reason
a check
for
then.
action unless somebody else does.
Okay, we'll get one processed. It's too late for this week's run, but next week, Tuesday, we'll get in for next Tuesday, get approved and send to them. Okay.
Thank you for that.
All right, any other board concerns? Hearing none, we are adjourned.